Deadpool star Ryan Reynolds posting on Twitter saying, "We're heartbroken, shocked, and devastated."
But there are a lot of questions about what was going on with Joy Harris. We don't believe she was wearing a helmet because the character in the movie wouldn't have been wearing a helmet.
When you think of making a superhero movie, you'd imagine it's all about explosions, snarky one-liners, and high-energy action, right? Well, not when someone actually loses their life in the process. That's exactly what happened on the set of Deadpool 2 when stuntwoman Joy S.J. Harris tragically died while performing a motorcycle stunt. And here's where things get murky. Ryan Reynolds allegedly had a connection to the whole thing, something he'd rather keep under wraps. Now, when we talk about the most dangerous jobs in Hollywood, most people think of publicists scrambling to clean up celebrity scandals. But the real unsung heroes are the stunt performers, the ones executing death-defying flips, high-speed chases, and in this case, life-risking motorcycle stunts, all while A-listers relax in their trailers. But what happened to Harris wasn't just a tragic accident. It was an avoidable catastrophe, and Hollywood knew it. Harris wasn't just some random person who decided to hop on a bike one day and call herself a stuntwoman. She was a seasoned motorcyclist, the first Black woman to compete in an AMA-sanctioned event, and someone who lived and breathed motorcycles. But here's the problem. She wasn't an experienced stunt performer. This was her first film job. Let that sink in. A first-time stunt performer was placed on a high-powered motorcycle without a helmet for one of the biggest movies of the year. And no one thought, hey, maybe this isn't the best idea. And it gets worse. The stunt she was performing wasn't a one-and-done situation. Harris had already completed it 4 times that morning. 4 successful takes. But the production team wanted one more, because in Hollywood, there's always room for another shot, even at someone's expense. Eyewitnesses say she rode down a flight of stairs, narrowly avoided 2 pedestrians, and then suddenly lost control. The bike jumped a curb, flew across the street, and crashed through the glass window of Shaw Tower. The impact was devastating. She didn't survive. Paramedics couldn't do anything. She was gone before they even had the chance. Think about that. A major Hollywood production, one of the biggest stars in the world, and somehow no one prioritized safety? You're telling me they could CGI entire alien invasions and have Thanos snap away half the universe, but they couldn't digitally add a helmet to a stunt performer? The industry had the power to prevent this, and they didn't.
A female stunt driver was killed while filming a scene for the upcoming movie Deadpool 2.
Well, investigators are trying to pinpoint what caused a motorcycle accident that killed a stunt driver on the set of Deadpool 2. Reynolds goes on to say, "My heart pours out to them, along with each and every person she touched in this world."
And let's not even get started on the pedestrians who were nearly mowed down by a motorcycle in the middle of a public street. Because apparently, filming in a highly populated city seemed like a brilliant idea. But here's where things get even sketchier. Joy S.J. Harris wasn't even the first choice for this stunt. The original stunt double struggled with the motorcycle, so they replaced her. But instead of bringing in another trained stunt performer, they went with Harris. Why? Because Hollywood needed a Black woman for the part, and there weren't many female stunt riders of her skill level available. But here's the problem. Riding a motorcycle on a track is not the same as executing high-risk stunts on a movie set. That's like assuming a professional sprinter can suddenly start doing backflips just because they're fast. That's not how it works. And to make matters worse, there were reports that the stunt coordinators raised concerns about Harris's lack of experience. But the producers ignored them. Because in Hollywood, money will always be more valuable than human lives. Now, let's talk about Ryan Reynolds. You better believe he wasn't about to let this Deadpool disaster stain his franchise. He was reportedly devastated, issuing the standard Hollywood response. "We are heartbroken, shocked, and devastated." That's celebrity damage control 101. But let's be real, this wasn't just some freak accident. The production team knew the risks. They chose to go ahead with it anyway. And what happened next? They shut down production for a few days, held a memorial service, and then went right back to work. Because at the end of the day, the show must go on. But this isn't just about Deadpool 2. Hollywood has always had a problem with how it treats stunt performers. These are the people who risk their lives daily, executing death-defying jumps, crashes, and chases, all for a fraction of the glory. No Oscars, no million-dollar paychecks, no press tours. Just broken bones, life-altering injuries, and in some cases, death. And when things do go wrong, they're treated as expendable. As long as the A-listers are safe, the stunt team is just collateral damage. Just look at Hollywood's long history of fatal stunts. In 2017, The Walking Dead's John Bernecker fell 22 feet onto concrete. Except that fall wasn't scripted, and he never got back up. Then there's Olivia Jackson, the baddest stuntwoman from Resident Evil. The final chapter, who suffered life-altering injuries when a stunt went rogue, slamming her into a metal camera arm. And let's not forget Conway Wycliffe, who was working on The Dark Knight when his car crashed into a tree during a high-speed chase. Turns out, Gotham's real danger isn't the Joker. It's Hollywood's refusal to protect its stunt teams. So while the big stars are out here collecting Oscars, the people actually risking their lives barely get a mention in the credits, if they're lucky. And what does Hollywood do when tragedy strikes? Nothing. They issue a carefully worded statement, send out some thoughts and prayers, and then move on. At the end of the day, Deadpool 2 became a massive hit, raking in over $785 million worldwide. Ryan Reynolds continued his Hollywood reign. The franchise thrived. But Joy Harris? She never even got to see her first film debut. Hollywood failed her. She was put in a position she wasn't ready for, given no helmet, and asked to risk her life for a film that treated her like an afterthought. And when she died, the industry moved on, like she never even existed.
Came out, went down the 2 flights of stairs. It looks like she kind of hit the throttle because she picked up speed. I mean, the bike kind of wobbled a bit. She lost control really quickly, so she had nowhere else to go, and she kind of hit the stanchion by the Starbucks there. And before you know it, it happened in like a split second, basically from the front door to the Starbucks there. We weren't sure like how the song was supposed to end, so when she kind of disappears, we were like, well, where'd she go? Because we didn't feel anything, we didn't hear anything.
When tragedy strikes on a movie set, you'd think Hollywood would take a long, hard look at what went wrong. But let's be real. The industry would rather sweep it under the rug faster than a PR team scrubbing an actor's old tweets. However, this time, the government wasn't about to let it slide. An investigation was launched, and guess what? Turns out, this wasn't just an unfortunate accident. The official conclusion? Joy Harris's death was the direct result of poor planning and safety violations by the filmmakers. In other words, it was preventable. This wasn't a case of a stunt performer making a mistake. It wasn't some unpredictable freak accident. It was pure negligence. The production team failed to do their job, and that failure cost a human life. Now, I don't remember hearing much about this when Deadpool 2 hit theaters. Do you? Exactly. That's because they bury it. Oh, but don't worry, they totally cared. In fact, they even dedicated the movie to Harris in the credits. Because, yeah, that's exactly what her family needed. A quick mention at the end of a blockbuster. What they actually needed was justice. So what happened next? Well, as expected, Harris's family sued the studio. And you know what that means? Fox whipped out their checkbook faster than you can say box office hit. The exact settlement amount was never disclosed, but let's be real. When a studio settles quickly, it's because they don't want a lawsuit dragging their name through the mud. One stunt performer put it perfectly. How you put a price on your daughter's head? No amount of money is worth what happened. And they were right. Harris's death was senseless. If the studio had just followed basic safety protocols, if they had listened to the concerns of their crew, if they had prioritized human life over film accuracy, she would still be alive today. But instead, they got hit with a measly $289,000 fine for safety violations. For a movie that made nearly $800 million, that's chump change. And where was Ryan Reynolds in all of this? Meanwhile, people online started connecting the dots. They asked, why wasn't Ryan dragged the same way Alec Baldwin was? Why didn't this blow up as a major scandal? Did the studio pay off media outlets to keep it quiet? And honestly, those are valid questions. Because when Hollywood wants to protect its own, it does. They bury stories. They spin narratives. They make you forget. And in the case of Deadpool 2, they successfully erased Joy Harris's story from public discussion. But the real problem here isn't just Deadpool 2. It's Hollywood's entire attitude towards stunt performers. These people risk their lives for blockbuster movies and get treated like disposable assets. That's why this should have gone to trial. Because until Hollywood is forced to take real accountability for stunt safety, these tragedies will keep happening. So the next time you watch an action movie, ask yourself, did the stunt double make it to the premiere? See you on the next one.